Hi there, welcome back to the Community of Readers video blog. We're following the Old Testament readings for the Monkey Bar Challenge, and this week we're at the last chapters of Deuteronomy. This is called All or Nothing. We, after 4 months of reading, have finally reached the end of the Pentateuch. What started as a promise given to a wandering nomad and his family in early Genesis now finds its way to the children of Israel sitting on the borders of the promised land, waiting for the next phase of their historic story. And this is a moment better than any other to explore a theme which has dominated our readings so far and which will dominate them right through to the end. Covenant. Now you may remember that at the end of January, when we sidestepped to the Psalms, we briefly explored this for a moment and we looked at a particular kind of treaty called the suzerain vassal treaty, which was prominent in all the ancient Near East and on which the covenant that Israel participated in with Yahweh was based. The suzerain was the mighty protector who would ally itself with a weaker vassal in return for absolute allegiance. And in this more elaborate blessings and curses, such as we find in Deuteronomy 27 and 28, were meted out so that if you kept the covenant, you would expect untold blessings. But if you broke it, wavered even for a little moment, there were severe punishments as a consequence. Now this covenant that Israel had with Yahweh is interesting because despite the claim to a sizable army found in Numbers, the reality was that Israel was not well placed to survive the nations around it. So even if Israel could defeat the inhabitants of Canaan, and we read in Numbers the implausibility of that plan, then she would still have to fend off the advances of the Philistines or the Moabites, amongst others. Really, Israel needed a powerful suzerain. But Yahweh is crystal clear. Israel should have no other suzerain but him. Now it's hard to overestimate the apparent insanity of this plan. Israel could not survive in a nation full of bigger, badder bullies. This is the final capitulation to the suicide mission that began in the great halls of Egypt. In fact, more than that, it's the utterly implausible path that wholly echoes the purely doubtful promises given to an old man and his barren wife in Genesis. Nothing in this story, nothing in this covenant command makes any sense, and yet the story has proved that Yahweh can deliver. This is why the Old Testament, the Pentateuch, gets called the Book of the Law, because actually only parts of it are legal stipulations, as we've read. Loads of it is narrative, but actually the narrative is needed alongside the covenant stipulations to show that whatever Yahweh demands of the Israelites, he is able to deliver the promises he makes. Yahweh is their ultimate suzerain. Whatever they come up against, he will come good. And they're told that nothing will happen without Yahweh's command, without Yahweh's knowledge. Even exile they will only experience exile for their training, for their testing, for their refining, just as was the desert experience. Now, whatever we feel about that, It's a powerful promise that Yahweh is in control. Now this covenant reverberates through the pages of the Old Testament. As we carry on reading throughout the year, the echoes of this moment in Deuteronomy will hit us time and time again. When we reach the New Testament, everything gets thrown up into the air, and out of the chaos emerges a new covenant, this time signed and sealed by the blood of God himself. This new covenant perspective that we have because we read the New Testament can make this old covenant and the pages of Deuteronomy feel a little cold. For us, there is no God shrouded by fire and the fear of dire punishment for disobedience. We ultimately, I guess, have a friendlier God. Certainly a God who appears more human, more understanding, more full of grace. But there is something powerful about this covenant. We can't really get the sizzling passion of Moses' words. We can never hope to understand or imagine ourselves fully into what it was like to be there in his first audience. Because despite our distance, there is something about this covenant perspective that Israel completely ally herself with Yahweh, that she recognized this new deity was bigger, better, more wonderful than any that had gone before, even in all the challenges that Israel faced. This covenant, this God, was a stirring beacon of change. And so in the new covenant with Jesus, I guess we meet a fuller revelation of the Yahweh of the Israelites. But something about their early experience is still echoed in our modern technology culture. Perhaps we're not at risk of national dissemination or military invasion. But there is still a challenge. A challenge to defend ourselves against toxic social trends or arrogant rival doctrines. Not necessarily to defend ourselves with military might, but to be clear who we are and what we stand for. The covenant challenges us. Are we completely allied to the God of Jesus? Because that is a life-changing risk and a light that shines in even the darkest of places.